As soon as Kronos would make it up the elevator, fates forbid, one way or another, he would immediately storm his way up here and bash apart the 12 thrones, destroying the center of power of the Olympians. Inside the throne room, Rachel was sitting at the foot of Zeus's throne, holding Pandora's Pythos. "Rachel, what are you doing with that?" Percy asked. "I can see hope inside," she said. "So fragile." "Rachel." She snapped back to reality and handed him the jar. Annabeth looked at Grover and said, Grover, why don't we go look for that nice spot for your plant?" She dragged him out before he could answer, and left Percy alone with Rachel. Then Percy spotted someone across the room who he was pretty sure wasn't there a second ago. It was Hestia, in her little girl form. "Come on, Rachel," Percy said. "I want you to meet someone." They sat next to the goddess. "Hello, my dear Rachel," she said. "You've come to our hearth at last." "You've been expecting me?" Rachel asked. Hestia waved her hand, and images projected in the flames that Percy recognized. Sally and Paul's wedding, last year's New Year's Eve countdown, driving along the beach with Rachel. "To claim your place at the hearth," Hestia explained, "you must let go of your distractions. It is the only way you will survive." I understand," said Rachel. "Understand what?" Percy asked. "Rachel, do you know what she's talking about?" "Percy, when I came here, I thought it was coming for you, but I wasn't. You and me?" She shook her head. "Wait, me? Now, I'm a distraction? Is this because I'm not the hero or whatever?" "I'm not sure I can put it into words, Percy. I was drawn to you because, well, you opened the doors to all of this. I needed to understand my true sight, but you and me, that wasn't part of it. Our fates aren't intertwined. I think you've always known that deep down." He stared at her for a while. Maybe Percy wasn't the brightest guy in the world when it came to girls, but he was pretty sure Rachel was dumping him. Which was kinda lame because they never actually had been together. "So what now?" he asked. "Thanks for bringing me to Olympus. See you later? Is that what you're saying?" "Percy Jackson," Hestia said, "Rachel has told you all she can. Her moment is coming, but your decision approaches more rapidly. Are you prepared?" He wanted to complain that he wasn't even close to being prepared. Then he looked at Pandora's jar, and for the first time, he had an urge to open it. Hope seemed pretty useless right now. So many of his friends were already dead, Rachel was cutting him off, Annabeth was upset with him, and his parents were sleeping down in the street somewhere while a monster army surrounded the building. Olympus was on the verge of falling, and he'd seen so many cruel things that the gods have done. Zeus destroying Maria D'Angelo, Hades cursing the last oracle, and Hermes turning his back on Luke even when he knew Luke would turn evil. Prometheus's words echoed in Percy's mind. "Stand down, and your forces will be granted amnesty." Then he remembered what he heard Nico say to Hades. "If Olympus falls, your own palace's safety won't even matter anymore." Then Annabeth and Grover came back into the room. Percy could guess he had a strange look on his face. "Percy?" Annabeth asked. She no longer sounded angry, just concerned. "Should we, leave again?" Just then, he felt like he just got injected with steel. He knew what to do now. He looked at Rachel and asked, "You're not gonna do anything stupid, are you? I mean, you did talk to Chiron, right? I mean, will you be okay?" "I guess that all depends on you saving the world, hero," she said, smiling. He picked up the Pythos and offered it to Hestia. "Lady Hestia," he said, "I give you this as an offering." "I am the least of the gods," she said. "Why would you trust me with this?" "Because you're the last Olympian," he said. "You're the most important because hope survives best at the hearth. If you can guard it for me, I won't be tempted to give up again." The goddess smiled, and she took the jar. "Well done, Percy Jackson," she said. May the Olympians bless you. We're about to find out, he said. And just like that, Percy hatched an idea. He looked at Annabeth and Grover and said, "Guys, we've got work to do." He went up to his father's throne and climbed on. Then, immediately, poof! "Who dares to—" "What? Percy?" Poseidon said. "Oh, Percy, what do you think you're doing? You realize if I hadn't looked first, I could have blasted you to bits." "I'm sorry, Dad, but I just needed to get your attention. It's an emergency." He told him his plan, and Poseidon was silent for a long time. "Percy," he said, "what you asked for is impossible. My palace—" "Dad, there's a reason you're stuck in a battle of your own. Kronos is trying to separate you guys because it could give him a better chance at winning."
"Be that as it may," Poseidon said, "he still attacks my home."
"Look, I know it's a big risk," Percy said, "but if we can't save Olympus, I may not see you again."
"Very well," Poseidon said. "It shall be as you say, but you must pray that this works."
"I am praying, Dad. I'm talking to you right now."
Oh, yes, so you are. Good point."
Then he disappeared. Then Thalia came in and told them that the enemy was advancing on the Empire State Building, and Kronos was leading them. When they got back down to the streets, they were already too late. Campers and hunters were wounded on the sidewalks. Clarice was frozen in a block of ice. The centaurs were nowhere to be seen. Either they fled, or Percy didn't want to think about it. Chiron stood across from Kronos like a cowboy in a western showdown.
"Stand aside, little son!"
Kronos shouted.
"Hello, father,"
Chiron replied. Hearing Chiron and Luke call each other father and son was just too weird for words.
"You're just a teacher,"
Kronos argued.
"It's not the same as a hero." "Luke was a hero, and a good one, until you corrupted him,"
Chiron said.
"Fool!" Kronos shouted. "You filled his head with empty promises. You said the gods cared about me."
"Me?" Chiron noticed. "You said me?" Kronos looked confused, and at that moment Chiron took his chance and charged. It was a good maneuver, but since Kronos possessed Luke, he had all of Luke's training. He knocked Chiron's blade aside, and then a blinding light exploded between the two of them, sending Chiron through the air and slamming into the side of the building. Their teacher was buried in bricks. A ripple of ugly laughter ran through the Titan's army. He raised his scythe, but before anyone could make another move, from somewhere behind them they heard a loud "Ow!" The enemy forces cleared a path, as if something was forcing them to. The ground rumbled, and a huge geyser of fire burst out of nowhere. When the flames died, a huge black chariot appeared in their place. It was Hades, along with Demeter and Persephone, and Nico was riding Mrs. O'Leary right next to them. "Hey, Percy, we got your message," Nico called. "Is it too late to join the party?"
"Hold your grounds, you maggots!"
Kronos shouted.
"Hello, father,"
Hades said, smiling coldly.
"You're looking less mature. I hope you and the ladies have come to pledge your allegiance, Hades."
"I've come only because my son has convinced me that I should prioritize my list of enemies." He glanced at Percy with distaste. "As much as I dislike certain upstart demigods," he continued, "it would just not do for Olympus to fall. I would miss bickering with my siblings. And if there's anything we can agree on, it is this. You are a terrible father." He struck his scythe into the ground, and a crack spread in either direction. A wall of light shot out from the crack and seemed to leap over the Empire State Building in a single bound. "He's controlling the magic boundaries," Thalia said. "He shrunk it down so it's only covering the Empire State." Sure enough, outside the barrier, car engines vroomed to life. The pedestrians who were laying around started waking up and staring apprehendingly at the monsters. Whatever the mist made them see, it was probably still plenty scary. At the end of the block, Sally and Paul got out of their car. Sally could see through the mist, so she might have understood how bad things were going on. Percy could only hope she had the sense to run. But then she locked eyes with Percy and ran straight toward him. Percy didn't want them to get Kronos' attention. Hades blasted the force field with black energy, but it couldn't put a scratch on it. He ordered his soldiers to attack the monsters, and they chased them down the street. Fifth Avenue exploded into chaos. Mortals screamed and ran for cover. With a wave of Demeter's hand, she turned a group of giants into plants. Persephone changed all the monsters' weapons into bouquets. Nico slashed his way through the enemy, protecting citizens as best he could.
Nakamura! Kronos shouted. Follow me!
And he ran for the doors and knocked the heroes off their feet. Percy couldn't believe it, but it also made him mad. Outside the bubble, Paul picked up a sword from a fallen hero and was doing surprisingly good to keep the Drachni busy. Percy could recall a couple of stories of how he took part in a lot of Shakespearean school plays as a kid. That was probably why.